Hi, you guys. Okay. I'm really sorry. When you're making videos, I always watch the video because I want to be fair. Whether it's my feelings or what I'm talking about, then I'm fair in the subject. And literally, I've done this 11 times. And literally, I'm sick of it. But I'm going to try to do 25-minute segments because it's easier to upload. Two, to be very honest with you, it's hard to summate 26 years into 45 minutes. It's like the hardest thing in the world because there's so many funny stories, there's so much tragedy, there's so many little dramas in between, and I want to make sure I'm being fair. That's Tim calling me, blowing me up within 5 minutes of cell service, so I know I can't even talk to him for longer than 5 minutes. Okay, let's start at the beginning. 29 years ago, I met Tim. He walks in the door, and I swear to God, every fucking bell, whistle, and light went off in my fucking head. It was like, that's my guy, right there. And he was like, that's my girl, right there. So, I've known Tim for 29 years, okay? And I know him really well. But he fucked me over. That was 29 years ago. He didn't mean to. He fucked me over. And he regrets it to this day. That's a whole nother video. So, a year later, I have a baby. I just lost my son. And I really wanted to have a baby with Tim Thomas. But I want to be frank with you. I had just lost my son. And I wasn't having anybody's baby unless it just felt right. And Tim Thomas felt right. So I get pregnant. And it was about, I want to say a year, but it was more like 2 years. Because we hung out. I left my parents. I went with Tim. I went to LA, and then we went to Santa Monica, and then from Santa Monica, we went to Lemoore. Lemoore, we went back to Hanford, and then Hanford. I mean, this motherfucker had me everywhere, and he wasn't a truck driver. He was a journeyman carpenter. He had been a carpenter since he was 16 years old, and he was really good at what he did, and he had tons of money. And I was just like, woohoo! And you're my karmic lover. Fucking love it. So that's who Tim Thomas is. He's this man who was brilliant, handsome, shy, and so to this day, he laughs about the first time we had sex because I was in the back of the truck. I was in the back of his pickup truck going, woohoo, with my fucking underwear, and I had sex with him in the bed of a truck. So, and it wasn't a diesel truck. So, that was our humble beginnings. My father hated truck drivers. Hated them. And there's a reason why, but I don't have to talk about it. And, so my dad's like, no. No daughter of mine's going to be with a truck driver. And Daddy was partially right because they don't have respect. Like, they don't have respect by the community. Like, that's just not going to happen with truck drivers. It never is. But, you know, they're the most important men in the whole world, but nobody gives a fuck. So that's our humble beginnings. Me and Tim are soulmates. We seen each other. It was fucking love at first sight. We get together, and he fucks up within 2 years. Totally fucks up. It puts me in a very bad position. And so, it was horrible. It was really, really horrible. And I left with my new baby. She was brand new. I just came out of the hospital. And while we were together, he had said something to me one time. He said, I want to be a diesel driver. And I was like, what? Because I was all about staying home, raising kids, and finding a good man. And I just found this man, and he mentions a diesel truck. And I'm like, no, it's not within me. Because my father worked every day and came home every night. So I was used to that. And my dad was a really good, he's a very good provider. So we weren't rich, but we got by, you know, and that was my daddy. And I still love my daddy to this day, even though he was a fucking total abuser. So, but I love my daddy, and I respect his opinion. But he did push the fucking shit a little bit. So that's why I have to be fair and space this out, because it wouldn't be fair just to blurt shit out. I mean, so Tim and I break up, and he shows up with a gun, and he wants to fucking kill me or whoever I'm with or whatever's going on because he wants to fucking baby. And I'm just like, fuck you, motherfucker. And the cops came, and then I escorted him out of town and said, get your fucking ass out here and your rifle, too. So that's how Timmy gets stuff. He's just like, I'll fucking kill you, motherfucker. And he was going to kill this guy that I was seeing. And this was after the fact. So I changed my mind. I want Tim back. And I call, and somebody said, he's getting married. And I was like, what? How fast did you fucking meet somebody? What happened was, and it's a long fucking story, her name is Jackie. When Tim's only had 5 partners his whole life. Now me, a little bit more. And Tim has this one flaw that nobody knows about. If you strip all your clothes off, he is going to have sex with you. Like, literally. He's not into porn. He's not into cheating on you. But if you strip your clothes off and Tim's not with anybody, he is bound to have sex with you. And there's been quite a few girls who have done that to Tim, and he was like, no, thank you. You're weird. So Tim's pretty picky about that. So somehow, some way, her big boobs, her blonde hair, all that shit, Tim has sex with her. She gets pregnant. Fuck. Now he's got to marry her. Fuck. So what does Timmy do? He gets her pregnant, and then I see him again. And he's there with her. We're in court. We're trying to fight for child support and all that shit. And there she is. And she's like 8 months pregnant. And I'm like, what the fuck? And so I just look at Tim, and he takes his ring off. And he's like, please, Cindy. And I'm like, no, motherfucker. You're married. Like, she's pregnant. Like, I'm not going here. And it was about a full year after we broke up. So Kimmy was 1 year old when she seen him again. So she was an infant, and then she was 1 year old. And that's all Kimmy knows. And then 4 years later, I was at the Flying J. And I fucking bumped into Tim. And this is what I know. So I see a pack of Marlboros, and I see a Coca-Cola, and I look up, and I just knew it was Tim. Tim always smoked Marlboros, and he always drank Coca-Cola. Rain come shine, and I looked up, and the man that I met was no longer there. There wasn't like that light in his eyes. He didn't have a cowboy hat on. He wasn't in a pair of boots. Like, he looked shorter to me. His hair was all greasy. I was like, what the fuck are you? And again, he took off his wedding ring. By the way, he got her pregnant again. So he marries this bitch, busts out 2 kids really quick, bumps into me, tries to get me to marry him again. And I'm like, fuck you, motherfucker. You know, you got her pregnant once and twice, so you must love her, so stay the fuck away from me. But he's still trying to get me to be with him. I'm like, hell no, hell no. And this is when he started truck driving. So 4 years, I would have to say, and Timmy just told me in 2009. That's so fucking crazy. I can't believe 2009 went that far back. Tim just told me on the phone, because I was like, can you give us a timeline? It's almost impossible. So, Tim started driving a truck as soon as he realized he didn't love this bitch, and she was pregnant. And then he got her pregnant again. So now he has 2 kids, and he's married. And so 4 years into truck driving is when I seen Tim again. And I was like, ooh, he looks rough. And I was thinking, where's that guy I met, with a smile on his face and that little glimmer in his eye? And already the truck was kicking his ass. And I was like, wow, he's a diesel driver. Like, that fucking sucks. My daddy told me not to do that. So I got on my merry way, and I realized that this woman, he doesn't love her, and 2, he's driving a diesel truck, and I'm like, what the fuck is he thinking? He's an amazing carpenter, and he's a journeyman. All his men in the family did it. It was just like, it didn't seem right. And so this is a story from that point on. So Tim gets in this diesel truck, and he's trying to avoid her. So he jumps into a diesel truck, and he likes her, but he's not in love with her. And I know that's true, because I talked to his kids, and so I know the truth. And Tim goes in a diesel truck to get the fuck away from her. And he gets on the truck, he meets his trainer, he's like a 30-year driver, and the guy's like, I'm going to teach you how to drive a truck. And Tim's like, okay, he's all eager beaver. And this guy never fucking drove the truck. He put Timmy behind the wheel and was like, drive, motherfucker, drive. Mind you, this is a lot of years ago. There's no Jake brakes. There's only paper logs. You scale every time you fuel. The scale is on the fuel island, so you have to go over it, scale, get your fuel, and then get the paper inside. So if you're over fucking weight, you gotta drop that shit at the truck stop and keep on fucking moving. At this point, companies are small. They're not big. And the big companies like Landstar and stuff like that were just kind of coming up in the world. They weren't really like established trucks drivers. He was working for PSI. No, he wasn't for PSI. He was somewhere else. And this guy's name is Roy. He's driven for a long time. And every single time he's supposed to drive the truck, he tells Timmy, I have a stomach ache. My back hurts. And Timmy's gullible. He's like so courteous. And so Timmy was like, okay. And he kept driving. And so when I seen Tim, he was exhausted because he was driving for this old man. And this old man keeps saying like, oh, I don't want to drive. So Timmy's driving all day, all night. And he's waking up late afternoon and saying, oh, okay, I'll drive for 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever. And Tim said the most he ever drove was like 7 hours. And the rest of the time, it was just game on. So a year into this, Timmy gets his license. They do big fat training back then. I think it was like 6 months or something. And Timmy passes his test. And they're doing reefer. And Timmy's like, eh. And so Timmy's unloading the pallets at the warehouse. It's cold shit, so it needs to get there on time. And Timmy doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how to back up. He doesn't know how to drive. He doesn't know what to do on the fucking freeway. Like, he doesn't know shit. But this guy's asleep in the back, and he's not going to fucking help him. So he taught him a little bit of shit, and then he just threw him on the truck. And so Tim, at this point, is just like, fuck, when's this guy going to help me out? Like, I'm training, And so this went on for 2 years. And Timmy was just busting his fucking ass. He said, those are the hardest 2 years of my life. The hardest. He said, I literally did not know what I was doing. I couldn't park, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. Then I would get there to the load, and I would have to unload all hundreds of pallets. And he said he would never fucking help me. And I was stuck with this motherfucker, and I fucking hate his guts. And his name is Roy, and I hate his guts. And I hate reefer. I hate it, and I'll never do it again. Because Timmy burned out, and that 4-year period, Timmy burned out. So then Roy wanted to do team driving. Tim's like, okay, gullible fucking weirdo. And 2 years into that, Tim was just done. He was tired of this guy's excuses. He was tired of his bullshit. So literally 4 years, Tim drove his ass off, unloaded fucking reefer, and made money for that guy. And he got paid extra for training Tim. And Tim didn't get shit. He hardly made any money. I think he was making about $400 a week. And so that's not a lot of money to Tim. When he was making $1,500 being a carpenter. So Tim, at the 4-year point is when I seen him. And this motherfucker looked, he just looked horrible. And I couldn't even believe what I was looking at. So that's 4 years into it. And he's like, fuck this guy, fuck the reefer, fuck the pallets, I'm done. Like, fuck you. I can drive a truck. So Tim jumps on a flatbed for PSI. The first company, I don't know their name. I don't even think he'll talk about it. He hates them so much. And so he jumps on a truck on a flatbed, and he's going to be a flatbed driver. Now he's at the 4-year mark. He sees me again. And I'm like, no. You're a diesel truck driver. And you're like, please, I love you, Cindy, you know I love you. I'm not going to beg you, but you know I love you. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, you're a truck driver, see you. And so I'm turning and burning at this age. I'm like young, I already had one divorce, I was really, really devastated. And here's this truck driver, and this guy that I fell in love with is not the same guy. He's like a different fucking guy. And I'm just like, get the fuck away from me. And but I'm still in love with him. But when I see him, he doesn't look anything like himself, and he's not being himself. So when I'm looking at him, I'm just like, what the fuck happened to my soulmate? So I'm like, he's just a dirty grubber fucking weirdo. And so he kept stopping where I was working. He kept hitting me up and hit me up and hit me up and putting his wedding ring there. And after he said the 4th, 5th year, they were done. But he just kept providing for her and taking care of her, and he was legally married to her. And finally, she went down and filed divorce papers, finally, after she took him for all his money. And that 10-year period, Tim had already advanced. He was driving flatbed, paper logs, no set accelerator, none of that shit. None of the stuff that you see today was happening then. They had phone booths. They didn't have electronic log. Tim learned on a truck that was like a fucking Kenworth. And that's all he knew, was just diesel driving, hitting the hammer, being on time, never being late. That's all Tim fucking knew. Because that guy just slept in the back. He never fucking really helped him. So Tim had to learn the hard way. And that trainer situation was a piece of shit. So as Tim was going, bad things were happening to Tim. And he's with this woman, and she's like cheating on him, doing this, doing that. And he's like, fuck, I don't even love this bitch. And he's bumping into me all over the place. So we're friends. And I think we still had actually rotary phones. Yeah. And maybe the push button ones. I don't know. So at this point, I'm turning and burning. I'm dating guys. I'm raising my kids. I'm working hard. And I'm hearing about Tim asking about me running all over the place. I'm like, whatever. He's weird now. He's not my soulmate anymore. But I fucking knew deep in my heart he was. I just fucking couldn't accept the fact that he was a diesel truck driver. At this point, Timmy is pushed to his bitter end. He is just, this guy has literally made Tim drive into the ground. He's never home. He doesn't love the woman, but he has kids. And Tim's a very dedicated father as far as like, I want them to know I'm here. I'm not going to just leave my kids. And he's very upset about Kim being taken away with me. So he didn't like that at all. In his first marriage, she cheated on him too. So everybody's fucking cheated on Tim. And he loved me because I was so loyal and I would never cheat on him. This is like the part one. This is crazy. So I'm hoping to get to the pussy part because it's really funny. So Tim's driving. It's very new to him. He's been thrown in this truck. He's driving 12 to 14 hours a day. Half the time he didn't even know where the fuck he was at or what he was doing. He was so exhausted he couldn't even think. And those first 4 years were like a complete nightmare. If you asked him about it, he's like, fuck it, I don't even know how I did it. Nobody really trained him. He just learned on the road. And, you know, people would get on the CB and be like, get the fuck out of here, newbie. You know, old truck drivers. And Tim would be like, oh, what did I do? So Tim's shifting, he's braking, he's unloading these pallets, he's doing all this shit for 4 fucking years of his life. And he'll do anything not to go home to be with this woman, so he gets back on the fucking truck and goes to work for PSI. And this is back in the day when you had a dispatcher. Like, you actually spoke to these people, they cared about you, they knew your first and last name, they knew your children, they knew your wife, and they cared about you as a person. And so when Timmy wouldn't sleep for 3 and 4 days, he would be like, pull it over, Tim, you know? And he still remembers that guy's name. I mean, he loves that guy, John. He was an old truck driver, and he started dispatching. And so he used to tell Tim, I know what you're doing, buddy. Pull it over, okay? So Tim, from the get-go, was a fucking, like, maniac truck driver. He would drive 70 to 90 miles an hour. He only got a ticket one time, and it was for overweight. He's never been in a trucking accident, and Timmy drives the ice road now, so you know what I'm talking about. So Timmy is turning and burning, and his kids are in drama all the time. And she's moving and being with another guy, and he doesn't get to see his kids. So finally they divorce after 10 years. But in that time, Tim's asking me to marry him, and I'm just like, you're fucking crazy, dude. Like, all this shit going on, I don't want to deal with it, but I love you. You're my friend. Like, I'll be your friend. So Tim's going down the road. He's doing paper logs, no electronic. None of that shit that you bells and whistles you see today. It was old Kenworth, small sleeper, fucking turn and burn down the road, and don't fucking stop. The more you do it, the more money you make. And so Tim was at a reefer. He's in flatbed now. I think he was in a 48-foot flatbed and was driving a Kenworth, I think. I'm almost positive. And Tim is just turning and fucking burning. At this point, like, amphetamines are right on the shelf. Like, amphetamines are on the fucking shelf. And Timmy knows that he can get amphetamines anytime he wants to. So he starts, like, popping pills just to stay awake. And he's drinking, like, 50 gallons of fucking coffee because he did the 4 years with that guy. He doesn't know how to stop. He just keeps going and going and going and going and going. And I mean, when I seen him like this, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what human being could live this way? And Tim always lied in his logbooks. He was a renegade. He was a rebel. He avoided chicken houses. He never got pulled over by a DOT. And he always ran on the hammer lane. And he was always at 70 to 90 miles an hour. So, 80 a lot of times. So that's all Tim knows. He doesn't know anything different. So that's our beginning. And in those first 10 years is like, I'm in and out of Tim's life, and I don't really know what to do because of this girl. And I'm just there for him as a friend because I don't know what the fuck to do. I mean, I've never been with a truck driver, so I don't know what the fuck to do. And he looks horrible, and I actually felt sorry for Tim. I was like, he's going to have a horrible life. And this guy that I thought I loved, that was just some young thing, and I need to get over it. And so I was on my own adventure, and Tim just keeps saying, I love you, I want to be with you, I love you, I want to be with you. And I'm just like, I loved you, but I don't know if I want to be with you. Like, that's insane. So Tim was doing, 100 miles an hour. He's fudging logbooks. He's in the hammer lane. Now he's getting a little full of himself. He's starting to get that, like, trucker swag. Like, I'm gonna get that black Kenworth, drop it to the ground, put lights on it, and I'm gonna show every fucking buddy that I'm Tim Thomas. And literally, Tim would wear these like long dusters with a pair of black cowboy boots, a black hat, a black truck, doing a lot of amphetamines, maybe a little coke in there, and he travels with a gun. So that's Tim Thomas. And he's pulled a couple guns out on people when I was there. It was pretty weird. And, but only when they're wrong. So, Timmy is, he's the Billy Badass. He's hot. Everybody thought Tim was gay. That was another thing. Everybody thought Tim was gay because Tim was so handsome. And he was not with a lot of women, so they were like, why are you like that? And Tim's just a really loyal person. So, Tim was with Jackie. They're not really together after the 4th year. He stays legally married to her for 6. He's on a diesel truck. Now he's getting full of himself. And he's just going to show every fucking buddy in the world that he can beat this truck. And he gets in there and he's got a black Kenworth. He owns property in the South. And he's going to buy a house. And he's doing all this fucking shit. And nobody knows what's really going on. People didn't know what was going on with Tim Thomas out there, other than he would show up and he would look like a Billy Badass, and everybody's like, he's a badass truck driver, and he's like, I know. And so this is when Tim used to hang out at the truck stops and be like, hey buddy, what's going on? Hey, are you a flatbedder? Yeah, I'm a flatbedder. This is when it was show off time, big show off. And I drive a diesel and I'm the bomb. And so Tim went through that stage. This went on for quite a while until he went to Vermont. Oh my God, big fucking drama there, but I'm not going to tell you about that. So, when Tim's in his turn and burn stage, one time he's going down the road, I have to tell you the story. On every single segment, I'm going to tell you a story about it because it's fucking hilarious. He sees this pink diesel truck right beside him, and it says, the pink pussy. And Tim's like, what the fuck is that? Probably tripping balls too, because he's taking amphetamines or whatever. He's probably dropping no-dos, and at the time, no-dos was like amphetamines. And Tim looks over, and it's a pink truck. There's a girl driving, and it's, all pink, which nobody's seen that back in the day. And it was called the Pink Pussy. And Tim's like, gets in the CB, and he's like, the pink pussy, huh? Like, what the fuck? Is this a guy that's dressed like a girl? What the fuck is this, And she's like, hey, how's it going, truck driver? And he's like, I'm trying to figure out who the pink pussy is. Like, it's just fucking crazy weird. And so they talk as they're driving and come to find out she's a madam. And she's a truck driver. And they're in Nevada. And so she's like, hey, truck driver, you got $10. And basically that meant, hey, do you want to pull over in Nevada and get fucked by somebody for $10? And I'm a madam and I'm on a diesel truck and I'm the bomb and I'm making tons of money as a diesel truck driver. And I'm also making a lot of money being a fucking madam. And Tim's like, no, that's not my style, but I gotta show respect for a pink pussy truck. That's one of the funniest stories ever. And I'm not even laughing about it because it's been told so many times. It's just fucking funny. So every time he went through Nevada, he'd always see that pink truck and he would always talk to this lady named Linda or something. And it was always about, hustling drivers in to get the pink pussy, right? So that's kind of a funny story. So Timmy at this point, showing off at the truck stop, thinks his shit doesn't stink. He's going to show the whole fucking world. He's driving a Kenworth. It's black. He's renegade. He's running very illegal. He's turning and burning. He's doing a little bit of coke, but at this point, I don't even know any of that. All I know is this motherfucker's tired. He's tired. And, I'm seeing him here and there, and I'm talking to him a lot, and Kimmy doesn't really want to know her dad because I raised her. And so, at this point, in truck driving for Tim, he's not thinking about the kids. He was only thinking about himself, and he was really fucking selfish. And it was like Adventure Highway. And he said the loneliness wore off about 4 years in. And he said a lot of conversations on the road, by himself. And at this point, Tim's gets Jakes, and he's hitting the Jakes just so he can tell people, like, I'm here. Like, he's doing crazy shit. Out of control shit. Like, trucker, I'm a Billy Badass shit at 8 and 9 years. Well, at that point, you're not a badass. You're just a fucking guy who thinks you're a badass, like Tim says. And he goes, but I thought my shit didn't stink. But one thing Tim could do, and that's drive a fucking truck. He flips those switches, he turns that fucking steering wheel, his feet are up on the dash, and he's got one eye open like this. This is Tim Thomas. One eye open, it's his left eye, no, his right eye. So he's like this. When he's sleeping on the road, he's driving, okay, and Tim's one eye is open. His foot's up on a dash with a cowboy boot, okay? He's got his left leg up, his right leg's on the accelerator, he's got a hand on the fucking wheel, and one of his eyes are shut. That's Tim Thomas doing 80 miles an hour on the fucking Hammer Lane with a bunch of old drivers. New guys back then weren't the same. They drove with the driver for very, very long before they were, like, turned loose. So fucking Tim, at this point, has been in and out of my life. I need him to divorce. He keeps telling me if I just take this ring, that he'll divorce her. And I'm like, no, you need to be divorced. Well, I am divorced. I don't even love her. I'm like, okay, well then get a divorce. And he's like, whatever, Cindy, talk to me. I love you. You're my soulmate. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're not my soulmate because you look really fucking weird. And I think a lot of it was those beginning years, you don't really take good care of yourself. And he still doesn't to this day. So all Timmy knew, and all he still knows to this day, is that guy used him during training, and Timmy let him do it. So, I know, I had to put my pajamas on because my stomach. He's bumped into the peak pussy. That's an interesting story. He thinks he's a Billy Badass at 8 years. He's not. He's still legally married to Jackie, but he never sees his fucking kids. She's always with some other guy, and it's fucking weird. And Tim's in a shit show. And so he gets this big Kenworth. He thinks he's a Billy Badass. He owns property, homes, everything else. And he loses everything. And he keeps bumping into me everywhere. And this is when they had pagers. So there's no electronic logs. There's no exact set speed. You could just hit the fucking pedal and go as fast as you wanted. And if you avoid the chicken house, nobody's going to catch you overweight. So that's one part. At this point, though, Tim's not eating because he's doing drugs. So this went on for 2 years. So Tim's not eating. And to this very day, he's still like that. Not because he's on drugs, but because Tim is not in the habit of eating. So Tim's first 10 years was a shit show. The first 4 was totally being taken advantage of. And the next 6 were him trying to reclaim his identity. And he was going to show the fucking world. And he was driving totally renegade. He wasn't scaling. He wasn't fucking checking in. Dispatcher would call him in 3 days and be like, Tim, you seriously need to pull over. And this is when the thing in Vermont happened. Tim's doing 70 to 90 miles an hour, sometimes 100. He has a tricked out back end of his truck. It had a fucking living room and everything. And Tim's insane. He's now stopping in truck stops and talking to people and, you know, being like a Billy Badass. But one thing a common trend with Tim is that he's courteous. At this point, Tim starts to hate truck drivers. He hates them. They're rude. They're nasty. They're not really good flatbedders. They're not good truck drivers. He starts noticing that these young guys are out there and they don't know what they're doing. They're starting to notice, like, people are hitting their brake pedal a lot. Tim started noticing all these fucking weird things, and it freaked him the fuck out. And basically, it was coming down to they were starting those schools and stuff. Tim didn't care. Tim didn't know. He could care less. By this time, he's on a 48 flat. He's in a 50. He's in a spread axle. He's in a double drop. Like, he's fucking turning and burning. Tim's making tons of money. He's blowing fucking money. He's on the road. He bumps into me again. And at this point, he's divorced. And I see him, and I'm like, wow, you know, there's the love of my life again. He started to kind of pull out of that funky place. And now he's a Billy Badass again. And I'm like, ooh, there's the guy I love. And now, at this point, Tim's already started the really bad habits of not eating, not sitting down to get a meal. He's getting like 5 gallons of coffee with him at all times. He is not, he's showering, but not as much as you would think he would be doing. He has all this secret shit out in the trucker life because he didn't want me knowing that he was fucking running illegal logs and all this other shit. He's never around. And this is when you would be out for 6 to 8 weeks. And then you'd come home. Well, he didn't have a home. So, you know, Tim was out there. And so he just kept going. And he didn't stop. And he's fucking doing 100 miles an hour down the road and being a belly badass. He said in his 10th year is what he realized. He had a conversation with God on the road and said, does God love me? That's the reality of truck driving right there. At this point, he's at every side road, high road, highway, freeway. He's going to Canada. He has his passport now, so now he's going across fucking state lines. He's going across fucking country lines. Like, he's done double drop, stop deck, this, that, tarping, throwing fucking loads, throwing tarps for $150 more. He's turning and burning on money. He's losing properties all over the place. He's losing homes all over the place. He gets rid of his black Kenworth and decides he's going to go buy company side, blah, blah. He loses like 10 trucks. Like, all this shit's going on. And Tim's just out of fucking control. That's why I see him again. I hear about him. He's in California. And I'm like, okay, let me talk to Tim Thomas. Now, at this point, he hasn't seen Kimmy in 10 years. He's all fucked up. And Kimmy's all fucked up. She wants to see her daddy. She wants to be with her daddy. She loves her daddy. Okay, I'm going to stop it there, and I'm going to do the other one.